last time for the next 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I didn't understand the
I
subtext.
could have done that.
So how are you? How are you? Good? Yeah. Did you? She's still in Arizona. Can you just like this morning because you know we just leave it.
Oh, that's exciting though.
So many concepts.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Oh, are you? They haven't announced that. I mean, they haven't made
Last time I went, only one person talked to me. I'm going because the point six was going to ask.
Yeah.
Online to hear, and presenters and any people testifying, please clearly state your name and position before starting. I hereby call this meeting to order as of 9:34. And before we get started, I want to make clear what we're doing here today. We'll start by taking public testimony, and the candidates are not in the room, but they are listening to our live audio broadcast. After that, we'll bring in each of the candidates into the room to make a short statement. Once each candidate has provided a statement, we will close the room and go into executive session to interview the candidates and deliberate. So Gina, do we have any public testimony today?
Yes, we do, Chair. Randall Roth. Please silence your cell phones.
Aloha.
Aloha, members of the Board of Education. My name is Randy Roth. I'm here on my own. I'm not on behalf of any other person or organization. I believe you have a hard copy of my testimony, but I greatly appreciate this opportunity to read it in this public forum. As you know, Governor Ige has called for a complete transformation of Hawaii's top-down, one-size-fits-all DOE bureaucracy, as he has described it, into a schools-centered system. More specifically, he has called for a substantial increase in the portion of education budget that will be controlled at the school level, and has repeatedly said that those closest to the children should play a larger role than do state-level administrators in determining how best to meet the children's needs. The governor's criticism of the current DOE and his vision for the future are a starting point in my testimony, simply because Hawaii's Constitution makes him and him alone politically accountable for the quality of K-12 public education in this state. Yet, to the best of my knowledge, neither of the two final candidates for superintendent has talked publicly about the governor's vision or his specific concerns. Accordingly, I suggest that each of the candidates be asked to address the following questions, ideally in a public forum, such as this one. The first question is, please describe your understanding of what the governor has in mind when he talks about school empowerment and a schools-centered system, and share your thoughts on whether such dramatic change is needed in Hawaii. Number two, please share your thoughts on the blueprint for transforming Hawaii's existing system, which was prepared by the governor's task force, and please point out anything with which you may disagree. Question number three is, if you become Hawaii's superintendent, will you select a new leadership team or work with the existing team that is heavily invested in the status quo? Question four, would you encourage teachers to take risks and be creative in meeting the needs of the students? More specifically, would you let educators at an individual school make their own decisions about book selections and even curriculum design? And the last question, what are your thoughts on Governor Ige's call for increasing substantially the portion of operating funds controlled at the school level? By asking the candidates to respond to questions such as these, you could add transparency to the search process and help to ensure that the next superintendent will be in sync with the governor's vision of school empowerment and his concerns about the status quo in Hawaii. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
John Sosa, EIH.
Good morning, Chair Mizumoto and members of the board. My name is John Sosa, Executive Director of the Educational Institute of Hawaii. Since May 2nd, 2017, principals and teachers have approached our board members seeking information on the superintendent finalists. Unfortunately, we have been unable to provide meaningful information due to the limited dialogue that has been made public. The brief question and answer with the media is the only reference we could refer inquiries to. We understand that there were selected sessions with role groups, but no information regarding the candidates' positions was forthcoming. At the heart of any educational system lies the relationship between the teachers and the students. Positive student-teacher relationships lead to positive learning. At the heart of successful schools, you find positive relationships between teachers, support staff, and the principal. Relationships between the schools and the system that serves them, complex and state support staff, determine the effectiveness of the system. The building of trust throughout this system is based on the actions taken at any level. We had the opportunity to start building trust through the development and execution of the selection process. Certainly what has occurred has been better than past selections. However, if we were asked to evaluate this process on a project-based assessment model, the conclusion would be, at a minimum, please make some adjustments so those that the system serves feel comfortable with the decisions made. We are fully aware you serve as voluntary members with limited resources. But teachers, principals, and the public look to you to lead this system to guide significant improvements. You're on the verge of making a final decision on who will be the face of this system for the next 3 to 5 years. We hope at the minimum you will ask the in-depth critical questions, such as those outlined by Mr. Roth. Questions that will give you confidence that teachers and principals will truly be supported through positive actions and seen as the center of this system. Thank you.
Wow.
Corey Rosenby, President, HSTA.
Aloha.
Morning. Chairman Mizumoto and members of the Board of Education, thank you for taking this time to hear the Hawaii State Teachers Association's thought on the search for a new superintendent. The HSTA is disappointed that no candidate in Hawaii or with strong ties to the islands made the short list of finalists. We feel knowledge about our unique cultures and our statewide school system is important for our next superintendent to be effective. We also wish that HSTA would have been allowed to interview the initial 8 finalists. This denied HSTA and the full Board of Education the opportunity to potentially compare a local candidate with the 2 finalists. Lacking complete information makes it difficult for HSTA to know whether these 2 candidates were the best applicants to be the next superintendent. Therefore, instead of recommending either candidate, HSTA will reiterate the qualities we would hope for in the next superintendent. We believe the next superintendent should have extensive experience as both a teacher and a principal. Our DOE leaders should grasp the opportunity under the new federal education law to replace a culture of standardized testing with a school climate that magnifies support. Support for a well-rounded education with authentic assessments along with arts and place-based learning. Support for teachers with an evaluation system that respects classroom autonomy and provides relevant, useful professional development. Our next superintendent needs to understand the complex areas of special education and English language learners. And perhaps most important, the next leader of the DOE needs to be approachable and collaborative. Someone who listens to teachers because those are the ones closest to the students in the classroom. And so we do ask this board to take this opportunity with the new superintendent to create a meaningful change to improve our public schools and for our kids. Thank you.
Mahalo.
The final testifier chair is Cheryl Burkhardt.
Aloha.
Good morning, everyone. I did not submit testimony, but some of you did receive a letter from me. So my first point is that since Cheryl Lupanui left the board, I have never received a response from any board member to any of my specific emails. So I'm going to move on from that. I did send a letter specifically to Chair Mizumoto. I am deeply concerned as a retired educator in Hawaii, who I've also taught on the mainland, in Florida, where we have seen a lot of what these 2 people that you are putting up for us have similar things they've done. And I'm rambling here a little bit because I don't want to read my letter. I just want you to hear sincerely from my heart that I am disappointed that after all the work that everyone has done on these islands to bring place-based, to bring Naho Pena'a'o, to bring multilingualism, to bring violet, all the great things that we do on these islands, knowing that back in the 1800 whatever, Hawaii had the strongest educational system, or not even a system, it was just great education until America, corporate, and I'm going to throw out Sanford Dole here because I put it in my letter to you. I truly believe that right now that's what you are acting like, the corporate people who are going to sell us out. I've looked at the what you guys, I did actually see from you guys on these 2 candidates, and they reek of everything that I know that has destroyed many school systems on the mainland. So I'm just reiterating, this is off of my heart. You have my letter that I wrote as an email because I didn't know we could do testimony today. And I'm, as a retired educator, I always tell you I'm available to consult with, to talk with, to, you know, I've had experience in Japan, everywhere, and there are more like me. And, I sent in my survey, I sent in everything to you guys, and we stressed we really need somebody who understands Hawaii and the uniqueness of here, and you have the complete opposite in your 2 candidates. And I'll close with that, and again, aloha, and thank you for listening to me. If you have any questions, let me know.
No further testimony.
Okay, thank you. There's no more public testimony. We'll move on to our discussion items. And first, I would like to invite Dr. Linda Chen, one of our final candidates for superintendent, to come up and make a statement. Good morning, aloha.
Good morning, Chair Mizumoto and the board and the public who are here in person as well as listening. Thank you for facilitating an extremely thoughtful and extensive stakeholder process these past 8 days that have afforded me the opportunity to engage with community members through listening, learning, and sharing stories. As I reflect on this process, the generosity of each exchange affirmed assets that currently exist across the state of Hawaii, and where my leadership can propel the state to the next level. I would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank all the stakeholders who took the time to meet with me, starting especially with our students on Saturday, who are at the heart of whom we serve, to the teachers and principals closest to them, not just this week while we celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week, but each and every day, their efforts in every classroom across the islands. We are fortunate to have teachers who take the time out of their weekend to learn with peers during professional development, such as what I saw this weekend in my travels across parts of the island. We also have extraordinary school leaders who work alongside teachers and are committed to continuous improvement. It is clear from the highest level of state leadership, beginning with the governor and state legislators, that there is an unwavering focus on the education of all of our students. I appreciate hearing also from DOE leaders, families, and staff that support our schools, as well as the many partner organizations from the military to higher education groups. Throughout all these conversations, themes from the state's blueprint and strategic plan continue to emerge, with an importance in the highlighting of our successes and creating a campaign of good news across school communities. Whether DOE, charter, or independent schools, we can all learn from the very best teachers and principals and scale innovative practices in a shared effort to provide the very best for all of Hawaii's children, while at the same time eliminating achievement gaps. I heard about many examples of how students have access to strong teaching and learning, anchored in the culture and a sense of place in this land, such as rich heritage and Hawaiian immersion programs with first in the nation language-based assessments that demonstrate evidence of student learning in authentic ways. Educators also shared impressive efforts in providing opportunities for dual and early enrollment in college. After listening to stakeholders share the unique needs of schools located in rural areas, I drove around to visit communities in which some of these schools are anchored. From the leeward side in the Waianae community to the windward side in Kahuku, and then back down through the North Shore, through the Central District. We must really differentiate our support and approach to account for the diverse needs in every community. We must always put students at the center of everything that we do and every decision that we make. I heard from many of you regarding the importance of flexibility and empowering those closest to our schools to make decisions on behalf of our students. Learning is successful when we come together to ensure that all students have access to quality schools, considering specifically diverse needs. We must identify the non-negotiables for quality teaching and learning. This includes more inclusive classrooms to meet the diverse needs of students, using technology to connect students to innovative learning experience, culture and heritage to the arts, and place-based education. We must embrace accountability while ensuring the kind of flexibility that allows local communities to tailor instructional practices that best meet the needs of our students so that every child will have the same life chances to advance their learning and be prepared for college, career, and beyond. This requires authentic ways to assess student learning and informed teacher practice. I was raised with the values of listening, learning, and acting with humility and respect for all. These are the core of my leadership approach. I also draw on these values to fight for equity for every student to have access to life-changing teaching and learning opportunities. Our success depends on the collaboration of adults having the courage to be unified and aligned in purpose, relentlessly focused on making decisions in the best interest of Hawaii's children and families. My experience as a teacher, principal, and district leader positioned me with the knowledge and skill to more readily understand the challenges and opportunities encountered in this work and in this position. I am confident that I am the right person with the right experiences to provide leadership to the Hawaiʻi BOE at this time. It would be my absolute honor to be able to educate the children and serve the families and communities across the islands. Thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Christina Kishimoto, our other final candidate for superintendent, to come up and make a statement. Good morning and aloha. We've just asked if you could make a statement to the board and the public. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Aloha, and thank you for having me here and for this wonderful opportunity. Chairperson Misamoto and board members, members of the public, mahalo for this opportunity. After having the opportunity to meet with a variety of constituent groups over the past 10 days or so, there are 3 common questions that I think have risen to the top in terms of our conversation. The first is, how do we deliver the education that our keiki need to be college and career ready? Our students come to us with a variety of readiness levels and experiences and language experiences. That delivery model requires that all of us work together to support our classroom teachers and our school principals in designing engaging instructional models based on the child and community. The second question that seemed to be common in the discussions that we had together was, what does the empowered school system look like? This seems to be at the heart of the various documents that have been created that sets the vision and course for Hawaii. With this question about the empowered school model, the question comes to mind about how will it function, what components are essential, and what work that we may be currently doing is no longer essential and needs to be put aside so we can focus on having the greatest impact on the classroom. This is the design and implementation work that lies ahead of us, as guided by Hawaii's blueprint and the Department of Education and Board's strategic plan. It's also guided by this opportunity to transition to the new guidelines of ESSA and the opportunity to focus on closing the achievement gap for uneducated students and maximizing those funds to the students who need it most. I thank Superintendent Matayoshi. She led during a time of race to the top and no child left behind. That was a difficult time where the federal government centralized its own authority around what should happen in classrooms. Imagine pulling back the authority to Washington, D.C. so far from the classrooms across the United States. The intentionality was good. The idea was that no child should be forgotten in our education system. Every child matters. But this transition to ESSA and re-engaging, reauthorizing the states, boards, and classrooms to make decisions closest to the child is where that decision belongs. The third question is about our collective readiness. Are we ready to execute on this vision for the Keiki of Hawaii across all islands, across all communities, across all schools and classrooms? This is going to take tremendous work. This requires a hyper-intentional focus on student-centeredness, community-driven actions, culturally rich and engaging activities, and standards-based design. In closing, from Governor Ige to the board, to the Department of Education staff, to the unions, to the area superintendents, to community members, legislators, and parents that I've met with, but particularly in the voices of our own student senate, Hawaii is poised to deliver on that vision to be a public school district of excellence by working together. We understand collectively in this community, in this state, that there is tremendous work to be done. I am ready to be part of this great team to get this hard work done. Mahalo for this opportunity to be considered your educational leader in Hawaii.
Thank you, Dr. Kishimoto. I understand we have one more testimony.
Yes, Chair, before you make a motion to go into executive session, we have a testifier. Kumu aloha kekipi no na kupuna. Kumu aloha kekipi.
Aloha.
Aloha. I want to acknowledge how Oli Lama Kuahine, all the mothers. So, and I will pass this around. It's McDonald's cup, but it insulates the flowers very well. So, pass it around. Everyone should have a flower. Believe it or not, that cup holds 30 flowers. So there's enough for everyone here. And I have a second cup circulating there. So everyone in this room may have a poor Kenny. Okay? Poor, I wish the two ladies would have heard. My concern, I don't know if anyone has brought it up, but is from day one when our Constitutional Convention declared that there would be two languages recognized in the state of Hawaii, English and Hawaiian. I ran for the Kantan. However, it was Naomi Campbell that won the Salt Lake District. Okay, but we were good friends. She was a judge, which is good enough. Anyways, so I followed that whole intention, getting to that, when I heard Hawaiian Affairs Bill, I mean, that was awesome. Okay, then when it came out, I thought, wow, it passed. And so I heard Hawaiian Affairs, the acronym, okay? When it finally got, everything got settled down, it said, see, Hawaiian Affairs Office, the acronym HAO, HAO, is a Hawaiian word, and it means to serve. But when it was finalized, it came out the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Therefore, in English terms, it's the office now that's important, and the affairs is just an adjective describing the office. So I thought, oh no. And so, you know, we've had our growing pains, and it's now 40 years since. And the kupuna, I was part of the, in 1985, local Mike Sneckenberg hired me, and he said, Auntie, do you really want this job? I was living in Nanakuli with kupuna Captain on the camp, in between jobs, and she told me, go. At that time, the pay was $10 an hour, and because it was a startup program, we got 17 hours a week with training and all of this, because there was nothing, no books even. They counted on the kupuna they just gave us a topic, and we figured out what we wanted to do, and we only had kindergarten at first to start, okay? So the first school I had was August Arn, the largest elementary school in the state of Hawaii, with over 2,000 students. And so the Leeward district was the first district to hire a makua instead of, because at first the intention was only kupuna, and they knew that wasn't realistic. So, and that makua has become a full-fledged teacher teaching at Waianae Middle School. What I'm saying is, 17 hours we had, that was great, but no fringe benefits, no overtime. But that was all right because the opportunity to work with our Keiki and pass on our culture. Okay, now in the transition, it seems like now Mrs. Monteyoshi's predecessor, when they were going through all the hassle with the No Child Left Behind, I know that she asked the federal government for explaining about our kupuna program, because it required everyone to have bachelor's degrees and university education. And so for us, we learned it, we lived it. You can't get a book for that, okay? So they took so long, I give her credit. Do you remember her name? Because she moved over to St. Louis. But anyway, I see her face and I really thank her because she made an executive decision and exempted the kupuna program. And now our title is CPR, we're Cultural Resource Practitioners, okay? However,
So we're going to need to.
so I'm leading up to my, if you look, my reason was our employment status, the kupuna, okay? They exempted us, we're grandfathered in, where we do not need a bachelor's degree. However, makua, new ones at makua come in. Makua are the parent generation. Kupuna is the grandparent generation. Okay, so that, what I'm getting at is, we still do not have any fringe benefits. When I was hired for Kalif Waina 10 years ago, the principal, acting principal, I said, oh my gosh, this was September, right? 22 different languages saying hello. And so I said, oh my gosh, these children can't even speak English, and you want me to teach them Hawaiian? And he thought about it, he said, you know, you're right. And I said, okay, let's agree that we don't expect them to be Hawaiian scholars, but we do. I want them to know Hawaiian values, starting with aloha, kokua, laulima, working together, and he'll read, because anyway, the language situation. And so the one for me, aloha is number one, everybody. Second for me is kokua, because I was the only one there, so I got to see my students every 2 weeks for 30 minutes. Okay, now then I said to him, hey, the kupuna is expected, or already, to go in, no prep time. We don't get compensated for prep time. Think about it. How dare you? I mean, it's an insult to our intelligence. But the kupuna always thought, oh, don't rock the boat, you know, they will. Because now the pay is $20.67 an hour, okay? With no fringe benefits, no prep time. So I'm asking you folks, and it will be a problem because now that how old do you think I am? Anybody can guess? 30. Most people think I'm in my 60s. I'm Kanapikukumamaha. This year is my 75th birthday. And I'm not going to retire because there's such need to pass on. So I'm not a native speaker, but I lived among native speakers. My father was one, but he never spoke Hawaiian to us. He wanted us to concentrate on English because I was first of the war babies, so it was English standard. So I have seen a lot of changes, and I'm looking at what will work now. And you know, I will tell you something, kupuna now say, they feel very insulted for what we know now to be called the host culture. Because they said, we're not hosts. Hosts are people that create a party and make a guest list and invite people to come and have a nice time. We had no choice as to who arrived here. And so that's not a host. So in the future, we would not like to be called the host culture. The first people of the land is acceptable because it's the truth. Our kupuna only want to say, speak and teach and pass on the truth.
Okay, we do need to thank you very much.
Ayo, Tutu.
No further testimony at this time, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to the final item on our agenda, action on the selection of and contract with the superintendent finalists. For this item, we will vote to go into executive session to consider the personnel matters and consult with the board's attorney. I would like to note that the board will not announce